Hey! Happy Tuesday. So glad you guys are here. Welcome to Tuesday Talks. I'm Steven, my buddy Ryan, and we are excited to hang out with you. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day today. Whenever you're watching this, whether it's live or after the live event, we're glad that you took the time to really invest in yourself, because that's what Tuesday Talks are about. It's us pouring into you, getting to hear from you, interact with you, and help you get better in every area of your life, really. So tag your team. We want them to get better too and hear this awesome talk. Let's see who we got joining us today.
We got Pate, we got James, Amy, Amanda, Steven,
awesome.
Austin.
Hey guys,
Sweet.
Great to see you.
Deandra.
Love our international crowd here.
Ellie, hey, how are you?
I know, right?
Good to see you on here.
So welcome from Australia. So awesome. Well, today we are wrapping up our series on leadership. Why do we do this? Why are we talking about leadership for 8 weeks? Why is this the final week of talking about leadership? Well, you are a leader. Whatever role you have here at Church Online, no matter how long you've been serving here at Church Online,
right.
You are a leader because you have influence. And at Church Online, you have global influence.
That's right.
And so we want to help you maximize that influence, maximize the impact that you have. And so we hope that these past 8 weeks have been helpful to you.
Yeah.
If you happen to miss any of the previous leadership talks we've done, feel free to scroll through the group. We have all the videos still posted in there. So check them out if you haven't had the opportunity already.
And before we get into this week's talk, we actually want to bring on the Church Online pastor himself, Pastor Alan George. Come on, give him some hearts as he comes on here. What up?
What's up? That was cheesy. It was a good idea in my mind.
It was like a skip that you just did.
I was trying.
Did you do a heel clip up here too? I heard that.
I can.
It was like a leprechaun.
I can.
Man, that was awesome.
I'm an Indian leprechaun. Okay, this is going.
Well, this last weekend, I noticed that, and all throughout this week, we're
I'm
talking
actually
about
in London right now.
You're in London
at
right
Church
now.
Online.
Yeah. But at Church Online, you actually mentioned in the transition video from worship to the message that we want people to connect in local areas.
Yes.
Yeah,
Why is that
sounds cool.
important?
Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, something we've seen over the past years at Life.Church, Church Online specifically, is, and not just Church Online, but Life.Church as a whole, is that God created us not to do life alone, but to do life with others. And this weekend, if you follow me on Instagram, this past weekend, we actually had the opportunity to baptize
that's cool.
Jean.
Yes.
Jean and her husband, Paul, live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And this is what they said. They said, we realized this was their first time. They never stepped foot into a Life Church building.
Wow.
But they realized that Life Church and our church is more than just a building.
Right.
We are the church, and their couch for them was their church.
That's right.
And they sat there thinking, man, we want to be baptized, and let's just figure out how to do that. And just hearing their story, that's just one story. That's one couple that's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And we've got people all over the world. How do we make sure that we're not living isolated lives, but we're living life with each other? We're helping each other grow in our walks with Christ, and we're growing in faith. Kevin Hussey says, hi, Alan. What's up, Kevin? Ellie, Amy, Ingrid, Amanda. Hi, everybody. So to go back to what we're talking about, why are we focusing on life groups during the month of November? Because it is a critical part of our personal relationship with Christ.
That's right.
And so my ask for you, for our team, our volunteer team, whatever role you're in right now, be praying and be thinking about how you can invite someone either to your life group, or if you're not in a life group, start one. Join one.
Right.
Get into a life group. Don't live life alone. And so that's why all the way from London here, we're promoting and we're talking about life groups, because that is at the core of who we are as a church.
That's good.
Love that.
Thank you, Pastor Alan.
Thanks
Really
so much,
appreciate
Pastor
it,
Alan.
man.
We'll go back to London now.
Perfect. Back to London. Yeah.
Okay, flight.
All right, today, wasn't that awesome? If you loved what just Pastor Alan said, and give him some hearts and say hi in the chat, we'd love to know that you're here.
Great.
But today we're talking about giving and receiving feedback. So why are we talking about this? Well, we say all the time that when a leader gets better, everyone gets better. And without a doubt, one of the most important tools that you can use to get better is to both give and receive feedback. Yeah. And so we want to talk about this to both help you help others, and to help others help you on your teams.
That's good.
Right?
That's good.
And so
I like that.
a little
I like
bit,
that.
a little switcheroo there.
Yeah.
So first, let's talk about receiving feedback. There's 3 different factors when it comes to receiving feedback, and I'd love to hear your feedback on how this is going in the chat. Go ahead and type that in. But number one is this. Don't dread feedback, crave it. Don't dread it, crave it. See, the best leaders, they ask for feedback. They chase after it. So many times we get so caught up in wanting everything to be just perfect, and we're so personally tied to our performance that we don't want to ask for feedback because we feel like it's an attack on us, and so we get really insecure about it. And I want to tell you that is a lie from the enemy, that there is so much more for you if you just lean into feedback and fight through the awkwardness, fight through the tension, and crave it. Feedback helps us grow. We can embrace it.
Yeah. I love how Pastor Craig kind of models this. I think every message he does, it's not just him alone in his study, hoping that God gives him the right words. It's like he prays about it, writes it down, but then he goes to several staff members and says, hey, man, what do you think about this section? Hey, I was thinking about saying this. What do you think this would connect? Hey, what do you think? Like, so he's spending time with God in prayer, coming up with a message, and then he's refining that through feedback of staff and people of diverse ages, diverse backgrounds, and trying to think about what's really going to connect with the audience. And he's vulnerable and saying, you know what, I don't know. I don't think the first draft is going to be the perfect draft. I need some help. I need some feedback. How we can make this better? Because it's going to impact thousands of lives.
In fact, just before this live, just right before this live, we actually rehearsed this script, and we refined this script through feedback and saying, no, we should say this, we shouldn't say this, we should say this, we shouldn't say this, we should add this, change that, tweak this. And so this Facebook Live right now that you're experiencing is a result of some feedback that we actually just did right before we turn on this camera. It's really exciting what can happen when you lean into feedback that way and crave it. So that's the first one. Don't dread it, crave it. Number two, separate the do from the who. And I talked about this a little bit, but this is so important. So many times we get so caught up in thinking that our performance is attached to our person. And it's just not. We need to sever that connection and realize that if we want to grow in our performance, that we need to not see feedback as an attack on who we are, but see it as an opportunity for us just to get better and to reach more people because we get better. And so we need to separate the do from the who. Realize that feedback is a whole lot more about what you're doing, not who you are. It's about performance, not actions. It's not about your identity. And when you find this is so crucial, guys. When you find yourself getting so defensive in a moment of feedback, that's when you need to lean in even more. Lean into that even more, because that might be an area that you need to grow in the most.
That's good. And I feel like, I've personally struggled with this of like internalizing or personalizing feedback. Like someone says, hey, if you did this, that would be better. They didn't mean it like personally, but for whatever reason, I distort it and I start thinking, oh man, I'm a terrible person. I'm a bad leader. I don't deserve to be here because I can't get this right. And you kind of take a really personal twist on it. At least I have. I've struggled with that. So something I'm still working on, and that's been helpful for me in this area. Like if someone gives you constructive feedback, particularly, is to not personalize it, but just remember, hey, God is the one who gives me the value.
That's good.
I'm here doing what he wants me to do. It's like, so just kind of just get the right perspective here. Other people aren't my God. They're helping me accomplish God's mission. Okay. And so God is the one who gives me my approval. It's like just kind of speaking those words of truth of this. They're not out to get you. The people around you are really trying to help you get better. But it's also kind of checking yourself of who's your motive, who's your God in a sense, and focusing like, hey, God gives me my value. Let me focus on that.
Man, in preacher terms, who you are is more defined by whose you are.
Oh,
come on.
Man, you got the
come on.
Today.
Who you are is defined by whose you are. Are you God's? If you are God's, then that's where your identity comes from. And it doesn't come from any man that can say anything about you, any person, but we can get better with what they say to us.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. All right, so Ryan just talked about 2 of the 3 ways to receive feedback. One is to don't dread it, but crave it, pursue it. Second is to separate the do from the who. Don't take it personally. We're just trying to get better, all right? So they're not attacking who you are. They're just wanting to help you do what you do better. But also ask clarifying questions. Sometimes we ask this question, do you have any feedback for me? Well, that's a pretty general question, okay? There's a lot of feedback I could give you, And if you just ask general questions like that, do you have any feedback for me? You're going to get general answers.
Right.
But if you ask specific questions, you're going to get specific answers. And so you might say, hey, how'd you like that message? Well, man, that's a 30-minute message. I mean, but it might be helpful if you say, hey, when I said that piece about the homeless man, did that make you feel sympathy or something like that? And so you might really try to specify, what exactly are you trying to get at? When I said these words in chat, did it connect or did it come across poorly? So try to be more specific about what is the action you're wanting feedback on, and that'll help your people understand what are the parameters of feedback you're actually seeking.
One of my, a few weeks ago, Pastor Allen gave me some feedback on situational awareness. And so I was in an environment and he said, you could have done better if you did X, Y, and Z when you were in that environment. And he was totally right. And I had an opportunity to be in a same type of situation actually a couple days ago. And I directly asked in this vein, I didn't just say, hey, how'd I do there? I asked him directly, how was my situational awareness when we did that together? And so it was the same person that gave me the feedback previously. And so he knew the context of why I was asking that.
That's good. And
so you want to ask very specific questions on that.
That's really good. And sometimes when you do ask specific questions, hey, how did I do when I said X, Y, Z? Sometimes they might say, well, actually, it wasn't good. So sometimes when you ask for feedback, you might get something that you don't like to hear.
Right.
So again, let's go back to that first thing we talked about, like don't get defensive, or if you sense yourself getting defensive, that's when you need to lean in, try to separate the do from the who here, but then force yourself to ask more questions. Hey, can you tell me more? Because I think, at least my reaction, you hear some negative feedback, you kind of want to shut down. You kind of want to be like, okay, get me out of the situation. I don't want to be here anymore. But what the best thing to do is push into it and say, okay, all right, I hear you saying this. What exactly is it about it, or what could I do differently? Try to ask more clarifying questions and dig into the root rather than trying to avoid the situation at all. So helpful and honest feedback, it can be the difference between being a good leader and a great leader.
And Pastor Raphael is going to jump right in
Pastor
here.
Raphael!
Come on.
Speaking of great leaders.
Give him some thumbs up for this awesome leader right here.
Senor.
How y'all doing? This is a day where we're just jumping in, throwing some
It's a
stuff off.
jumping day.
But speaking of good leader, I just want to jump in here real quick, man, and just first of all, just publicly thank you guys for doing this well. I mean, just your humility, your heart, the questions that you asked to dig deeper and get better feedback and more feedback. Your hunger to grow is just such an example. It's exemplary. And so
Great, man.
I just wanted to
Thanks.
thank you guys
Thank you.
for both giving and receiving feedback.
If I could hit
So
the
that's
heart
my
right now,
feedback.
my heart would just go like that. So hit a heart if you liked what that just said.
That's
So,
right. That's love. That's love. Feel the love.
Yeah, and the one little tidbit I would add is giving feedback is not being critical all the time. I mean,
Right.
there are some
Yeah,
things
that's
like
right.
Pastor Craig
That's
says, if you see something good in someone, call it out, say it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Don't hesitate. Say it in the moment. Say
Right.
something good, because you may not. That opportunity may just fly by and we forget.
That's right.
Yep.
So many things on our minds, but that's all I wanted to say
I appreciate
with
that.
you guys.
Well, thank you, Pastor Raphael.
Great job.
Yeah,
Keep
thanks,
it up.
man.
All right.
Awesome. So in that same vein, let's switch gears and talk. And we just talked about receiving feedback, and so let's talk about how do we give feedback. And so there's three different elements that we're going to talk about giving feedback, but just reviewing on receiving. Number one, don't dread it, crave it. Number two, separate the do from who. And number three, ask clarifying questions.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how we give feedback. So when do we give feedback? And the answer is immediately.
Right.
Just what Pastor Raphael just said, we give it immediately. Most organizations, they give feedback at an annual review. I know I've been a part of organizations where that's been the case, where I get this information dump and this huge piece of paper that I actually didn't know any of the stuff that I wasn't told along the way. But when they sat down and evaluated me, all this stuff started to come out. And I wished I would have had that in the moment so that I could adjust and be better. And I lost a lot of time there and a lot of context. And so if you give feedback immediately, then you don't lose time, you don't lose context.
Yeah.
Your biggest win is to make immediate feedback the norm on your team. So whatever team you serve in life groups, in prayer team, host team, in your home, as a mom, as a dad, in your organizations, as leaders, as pastors, as teachers, make immediate feedback the norm in your organization. And knowing that we separate the do from the who, and it's not about who you are, it's about improving our performance. And so with this, I will say that it takes some awareness to discern what's best to say in the moment and what's not. And so definitely we don't want to hurt people. And so the best way that you can communicate feedback is to both do it in the moment. And then if it's probably most likely appropriate to do it in a private way, in a private chat, something like that. But there are times that you can actually do it publicly. I know there were suicide situations at Church Online before where we wanted to tell both the guests that come in and the hosts that were there that were handling it. And so we were able to give feedback in the moment of like, hey, you guys did a great job of engaging them. We've got it from here. Thank you. And so then that's a public giving of feedback in that moment that lets everyone know that we're on the same page.
Yeah, that's good. So talking about giving feedback now, one, when do you give it? You give it now.
Right.
Or immediately, because sooner the better. Let's talk about how do we give feedback. So let's start by defining what is happening and what is not happening, and show kindness in this. So again, we're kind of go back to our specifics thing. Let's be specific. It's not just, oh, I didn't like what you did. Like, well, what exactly? I didn't like when you said this, it made me feel that way. Or when you didn't do this, this is what happened. Like, so try to be specific with how you're giving your feedback. And let's think again, let's kind of reiterate on this point of feedback. Feedback is actually a neutral term, okay? So it's not positive or negative. Feedback is neutral because it can be both. It could be positive feedback, or we might say appreciation, or it could be constructive feedback or kind of coaching feedback. So feedback falls on a spectrum. I think we think feedback and we think negative, I'm in trouble. Feedback is positive, it's constructive, it's on a spectrum.
It's a reframing there. We sometimes have to reframe,
That's
right?
Got to reframe.
Got to reframe how we look at feedback.
So appreciation. We did actually a whole talk on this a week or so ago about how to give appreciation. So hopefully you're doing that regularly. You're regularly giving your team feedback and appreciating them for what they're doing, because that is feedback and that's valuable. But there will be times where you need to give constructive or coaching feedback. And something to keep in mind there is to separate the intention from the impact. And what do I mean here?
That's good.
Sometimes we think that someone got hurt, someone got offended, and so we think that, well, the person who did that, they meant to hurt them. They meant to offend them. It's like, well, that actually may not be what happened. Their intention was, I'm trying to do something good, but someone got hurt along the way. And so let's remember that the people on our team, they're probably not evil. They're not out to get you, or they're not out to ruin everything. That's not what's happening. And so have the right intention. They're not out to get you. They want to help, but maybe they did something that came across wrong, or they could have done something better. So let's just isolate again who from do, intention and impact.
I think this is a really good opportunity, Pastor Stephen, to talk about how the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Listen, we said at the beginning of this talk that you have global impact. You have a global reach through Church Online. We're running a global ministry, and what better way to take out this global ministry than to take out the people that make it happen? We say it every week that you guys make it happen. And so the enemy will try everything he can do to try to disrupt our teams and try to say that they're trying to, they don't mean that in your performance, they mean that of who you are. It's their intention to hurt you. It's their intention to take this down. Don't listen to those lies. Believe the truth. And the truth is, we all want to get better together, and we want to reach the world together.
Yeah, that's really good, man. All right, so we're talking about when do we give feedback? How do we give feedback? Let's talk about who should be giving the feedback. Ryan, you can give us some.
So who gives feedback? And the answer is everyone should. From the top down, from the bottom down, and any person on our teams should be able and be given permission to give feedback. See, if you're receiving feedback and you don't respect the giver, because there are people, when we say everyone, chances are there's going to be people that give you feedback that maybe you don't respect or even like. And so if you don't respect the giver, it's going to be really hard for you to accept that feedback. And our challenge for you is to remember that they have a different perspective than you, and all feedback is useful feedback. And so in some way, so you can take whatever you're able to muster from that feedback, even though you don't respect or like that person, you can learn from it. And that's a great posture to have. And it's really important to say too, when we talk about everyone, the higher you rise in leadership, maybe you're a host team leader, maybe you're a community leader, a coach on any one of our teams, the higher you rise in leadership, the more that you actually have to model giving and receiving feedback. Yeah. And actually, the higher you rise, the harder you have to work and the closer you have to listen to find the truth about yourself. Because people will be afraid almost to give you what they truly think. Yeah. And you have to provide an environment as the leader that is super safe and that they understand that that you truly are about making yourself better, and you want to make the team better too. And so for those of you guys in higher level leaders on our team, we really lean into that and realize you got to work harder and listen closer to give feedback and model it.
Yeah, and I think something that really kind of blows me away is when like a top level leader says, "Hey guys, what do you think I could do better in this particular thing?" Or if like when a leader comes to you and says, "Hey, can you how can I be better at?" You're kind of like, "Whoa!"
That's good.
It kind of blows you away. And so maybe you're in that position, whatever it is, but open yourself up to that and ask the people around you, "Hey, I want to get better at making this team stronger. I want to make this service better or this life group better. Yeah. What do you think? What can I do?" And just humble yourself in that posture and ask for it.
Pastor Raphael bragged on us, but I want to brag on both Pastor Raphael and Pastor Allen. I've witnessed them do this very thing so many times. They go and authentically ask specific questions to get specific answers from us, from you guys, from members of our team, from other teams. They're incredible leaders that way, and they model this giving and receiving feedback too.
Yeah, it's huge. So let's think of a little challenge. A challenge for you guys is to give feedback, both appreciation and coaching. So how can you help someone get better, affirm what they're doing, and help correct and improve what someone's doing? Yeah. And challenge yourself to ask specific questions about your own performance to your team members, to your leaders, to people you lead. Just create a posture of open feedback.
Yeah, it's good.
Hopefully you guys will take that challenge up. Do tag your team. Let them know that they can benefit and grow in this way as your team implements more feedback. They might be wondering, why is this happening? Well, tag them in the video so they know some context there. So grateful you guys join us. Let's see any other comments here I'm maybe missing.
Bruce says, good stuff. Raphael says, that'll preach. Tasha says, yes, this is so good. Hey, Tasha, good to see you. Marseille, hey, Marseille. And so, love that you're posting the challenge, Amanda. Thank you.
Yeah. Great turnout. So great to see you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we'll be back next week. Ryan, do you have a teaser of what we're leaning into next week? Keep it a surprise.
I think we should keep it a surprise.
All right. Let's keep it a surprise.
We just say you can't miss next week.
You can't miss it. All right, can't miss it. All right, guys. Well, we're so glad. Look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, whoever finds God finds life.